man, people are fucking going after this film, huh? Like, I've seen so many one-star reviews for this film, which is fucking crazy to me. I unfortunately think it's just getting review bombed because fans are pissed off that Guillermo del Toro and Perlman are not doing another one. I fucking love Hellboy, right? I have almost all the omnibuses. I have the Del Toro ones on DVD, as well as a number of like the animated movies. I love the steampunk, occulty vibes with the historical events folded in that happened in the Hellboy universe. I love both the horror comics and the more fantasy action of Del Toro's adaptations. I, like most people, fucking hated the 2019 film with David Harbour, which I feel bad for because I love David Harbour. I also liked that Mike Mignola, who created Hellboy, had a hand in creating that one. And I also love Neil Marshall, who made Dog Soldiers. But it was just a fucking absolute mess. Like, it was a tough watch for me. And, like, after I saw it, my girlfriend actively tried to cheat me. She was like, it's alright. Don't worry. It'll be okay. Like, because I was so upset. I was so fucking upset. We're not getting another Del Toro one. He has said that. Him and Mike had a falling out. Mike is not giving him the IP. Del Toro doesn't even want anything to do with it. Like, Ron Perlman isn't coming back. As much as I love Ron Perlman, it ain't happening. So, if part of the reason people are hating this film is because we're not getting a third Del Toro one, that sucks. But I think, even though I love those films, I think people forgot that those films fucking bombed when they first came out. People fucking actively hated those films when they first came out. They were really weirded out by them. They thought they were really weird and fantasy, even though it was supposed to be a superhero film. So, basically what I'm trying to say is, it's fucking hard to take an IP that people love and adapt it into film, regardless of who you are. Hellboy The Crooked Man is a step in the right direction, though. Does it have its problems? Absolutely. Yes, quite a few of them. Do you know what it does better than any other adaptations, though? It illustrates how fucking horrific the world of Hellboy is. Hellboy is a demon summoned by Nazis and Rasputin in World War II to basically kill the Allied forces. His demonic dad cuts off his hand when he's a newborn and replaces it with the Hand of Doom. That's a pretty fucking dark origin for any comic book character outside of Japanese manga. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty fucked up. This movie is really fucking dark. It is full of Appalachian gothic backcountry horror, and we never get enough of those, right? Like, I fucking love that setting. I love the lore of Appalachia. There is such a rich and often tragic history to pull from. And I think when we do horror films based in that setting, what most people tend to just revert to is, bad rednecks who hunt and eat people. Which is a shame, because there is some really fucking good lore out that way. There's some really spooky shit that is part of the lore out that way. So this is a film that is trying to give us really sick folklore of the area, and I think it does it reasonably well. Parts of it feel like a haunted house film, parts of it feel like The Descent, parts of it feel like The Evil Dead. I just think if they'd taken maybe two of those parts and focused on them and just cut out one of them, they could have done something really, really good. But they tried to fit too much into too short of a runtime. And I think that's where this sort of falls down. Now, The Crooked Man follows Hellboy and rookie BRPD agent Bobby Joe Song in 1950s as they are transporting a demonically infused spider by train back to BRP headquarters for safekeeping. When they pass through a certain part of the mountains, the abundance of dark energy causes the spider to fucking flip out and break out and basically run into the hills. So Hellboy and Bobby go to traipsing around in the nearby village trying to basically find the subject. They quickly find out that the people of this village are suffering under the influence of a coven of witches run by a dark deal-making creature called the Crooked Man. And as that is precisely falls into their wheelhouse, Hellboy and Bobby decide to help out. Now, you may have noticed that is a very complex mashing of multiple plots, and unfortunately that is part of the reason that this film suffers a little bit, right? But, as is my custom, let's start with the positives first. Also, I'm sorry if you get any background. It is hailing. There is storms going on right now. So I'm hoping the mic doesn't pick that shit up. The positives. The horror in this movie is fucking great. It is dark as hell, and some of the imagery is pretty damn effective. There are almost like Blair Witchy vibes to this movie. There's also a wonderfully, wonderfully gross transformation scene that I thought worked fucking beautifully. When I saw it, I thought, are we going here? Are we going to go? Are they going to do this transformation, or is it going to be off camera? Nope, they show you. It's fucking gross. And I was like, we are fucking on here. If this is the level we're getting, we're fucking on. I really like that the lore has it's lots of death, it's lots of curses, it's lots of people being transformed. There's also a real nonchalantness to the village people who are being preyed upon by the dark entities, which sort of just goes to show, it's pretty sad when you think about it, because it's oh yeah, they don't know what to do, so they're just fuck it, this is just part of life now. We're just trying to make do with it. Fucked up shit's happening, and they're anyway, that's old Tom up the fucking hill. He's a demon of some sort, They're just learning to live with it because they've got no other choice, and I like that shit. That's kind of cool. That's very folklore, oh yeah, we don't go to his house. Why? Oh, because terrible shit happens. I like that shit. I also really like Jack Kesy's Hellboy. Is it Ron Perlman? No. Perlman's Hellboy is super quippy, funny, badass dude. That is because Del Toro's Hellboy is written like Ron Perlman. I fucking love Ron Perlman, but if you're being honest, Clay from Sons of Anarchy, Reinhardt from Blade 2, Jonah from Aliens Resurrection, they're all pretty much just Ron Perlman, which I fucking love Ron Perlman. I will say it again. I love the Del Toro films. They're all Ron Perlman, right? It's the same character. Kesy's Hell. I'm going to do that all. I'm going to say Kelsey all the fucking time. Kesy's Hellboy feels really toned down, and he sort of makes a point to be all right, this is just what we fucking do. I work for the BRPD. This is some paranormal shit. Time to get to work, right? Del Toro's Hellboy is very anti-authority. Everything's a chore. Everything pisses him off. He doesn't really want to do his job. He's sort of forced to a little bit. But in the comics, Hellboy's a bit of a company man, or a bit more of a company man. He is a soldier. He gets his part in the war. He knows his role is to fight crazy shit. And it often goes terribly, but he's not scared of anything because he's got this big fuck-off hand, and he can just punch his way out of shit. This Hellboy is more like that, right? I think he did a really good job as Hellboy. He's not as funny, but it's more like the comic Hellboy, and I honestly want to see more of it. While this isn't a perfect outing by any means, I was fuck, I like this Colonel. I like this little. I like some of the shit that's going on here. Leah McNamara is in this doing crazy nympho witch, and I know a lot of people are probably going to give her shit or not like her performance. I fucking loved it, and I think the reason is because it reminded me so much of Dracula's girlfriends in Hugh Jackman's Van Helsing. She definitely was a bit out of place. She could have been in a completely separate movie, yes, for sure. But I fucking liked it, man. I was go wild, lady. She rocks up on the naked on a horse and's hey, I'm just here to fucking tease you, you piece of shit. Hell's yeah, let's go. This movie is not as funny as the Del Toro Hellboys, but there is some levity, like McNamara's character Effie Kolb and Joseph Marcell as the Reverend, being decent examples of like, they say some funny shit in this fucking movie, right? Like there is some funny shit in this movie. Not a lot of it. It's not as funny as Del Toro's, but there is some good shit in this movie. At one point, Hellboy's facing off with the character, and there's all these witches like chanting and wooing and doing all this like crazy weird Madonna shit in the background. And he just like, Hellboy's like, why don't you grab your dizzy bitches and get the fuck out of here? And I was like, what? All right, cool. I'm in. This movie also explored the relationship between Hellboy and his mum, and it's quite underrepresented because it's a fucked up sad story, and it is underrepresented in lots of the other films. And I like that, even though it got a bit too probably abstract and psychedelic and went on a little bit too long. I do like that they were like, yeah, we're gonna try this out. Now, this movie definitely has its problems. Almost all the problems with this movie are to do with plot and pacing. This movie is only 80 minutes, but you do feel it at points, which is weird because at some points it feels rushed, and other points it feels like it drags. Like it is a pacing problem. I think that's why not all the jokes hit, because they say them so fast. By the time it gets to you sitting in your seat, it's a new scene. Like it's done. There were times where I just wanted to grab the characters and be like, slow down, we can breathe. You've got a little bit more time. Like just chill out. We don't have to just flick. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to just be constantly flicking scenes. At points, you know what it felt like? At points with the imagery, it just felt like the videotape from The Ring where they just show a bunch of fucked up shit and just flick between them. I wish they hadn't done that. They try to fit so much exposition in at some points, and most of it's told by some old wives' tale or rumor, which would be cool given the setting, but when you're doing so much of it, it muddies the waters. Now, I had no problem understanding the Appalachian characters' like southern backcountry dialect, but I do speak fluent Bogan, and I do think that's a little bit like knowing Spanish and being able to understand Portuguese. If you know one, you can sort of understand the other. I can see people watching this without subtitles sort of going, what the fuck are you saying? Because it's a lot of riddles and weirdness, which is not great for a movie that relies so much on lore. I get it. While some of the CGI is good, there's a big fuck off bird that I really liked. A lot of it is janky. And there's some harness flying, like characters fly off that you can tell as harness shots, and they just didn't work. I just didn't think they worked. They did not look good. But to be fair, this had like less than a third of the budget of the other Hellboy films. So, it's fucking trying with what it's got. There are some slightly cheesy moments, yes. Like some slightly cheesy character moments, but also all the other Hellboy films had that. I think you just expect it because it's a superhero film, so I forgive that. This movie is going to be the cinematic equivalent of Vegemite, right? Some people are going to ride or die for it. Some people are going to fucking hate it. But I really like the direction it's going, even if I don't like the execution. Give me more horror Hellboy. I'm fucking all about it. So I'm hoping they don't just shit can this because some people hated it. I'm hoping they give them another chance, because I do think that if they learn plot and pacing and don't rely on CGI a little bit too much, they could make something really fucking good here. We could get a really super spooky Hellboy. I tell you what, if this was split into 2 episodes and were the first 2 episodes of like a Hellboy TV series, I think a lot of people would fucking froth this. It's sort of like the best episodes of Supernatural. That's sort of the vibe. I recommend watching this if you love the comic book version of Hellboy. If you love the comic book version of Hellboy, this is probably the closest of any of the adaptations. If you love Appalachian horror stories, Old Gods of Appalachia is a great podcast I listen to. Antlers is it's that sort of vibe. That's the vibe. They've nailed that vibe. If you love it when someone makes a darker version of a character, like a comic book character, think like Matt Reeves' Batman or Penguin or Punisher Warzone. Like if you found you drifted towards those comic book characters a bit more than most people, you will probably like this. It's comic accurate at the risk of being accessible. I think that's the problem this movie's going to have. I do not recommend watching this if you fucking love Del Toro's Hellboy and are like ride or die. You want more of just that character doing exactly that in that world. This ain't it. This is far less fantasy and action. This is way more horror. If you don't like witchy backcountry stories, this is pretty much all that. If you can't stand bad CGI, there are points of it. I think they did reasonably well given the fucking budget, but like, skip this one. Skip this one if you can't stand any bad CGI. There's a little bit of it. This was kind of a hard recommend, this one. You know what I'm gonna do though? If you liked this one, it's the story's completely different, but the vibe's somewhat the same. 2002's Mothman Prophecies with Richard Gere. It's about a reporter who is trying to investigate sightings of a giant winged creature terrorizing a town called Point Pleasant, based on the actual cryptid. I think the vibes are somewhat similar. He's talking to a lot of town folks. They're explaining weird shit that's going on. They all sort of know the story of Mothman and all its weirdness. I actually think that would pair well with this film. Another pick is 2007's 30 Days of Night. This is one of the best comic book films fucking ever, and not many people ride or die for it like I do. I fucking love this film. It's got Josh Hartnett in it. It's about a town in Alaska who is set upon by vampires because of where it is on the globe. There are 30 days with no sun. Fucking heaven for vampires. It's got Josh Hartnett in it. It's produced by Sam Raimi. It's directed by David Slade, who did Bandersnatch. It's fucking bloody as hell. It's brutal. I fucking love this movie. Actually, just talking about it makes me want to go watch it again. It's one of the best comic book movies of all time. It's up there with Watchmen. It's so fucking good. It's so good. If you like dark comic book movies that are brought to life, 30 Days of Night is so fucking good. As always, thanks for watching. And remember, if you want to follow along with this Spooktober, subscribe, hit the bell. Best way to do it. Let me know what you thought. If you are going to go see this, who's your favorite Hellboy? Where's this rank on their list of Hellboys? As always, what's your favorite comic book movie too? Actually, what's your fucking favorite comic book movie? Tell me. I'm always interested in that shit. Peace.